Hello and welcome everyone to the next episode of DoubleDM podcast. I am, as always, your host, Emil. I am here with my co-host, Niels.
Hi.
And later today, after our mid-roll, Russel Eugene Welsh III from D20 Tales will join us. Longtime fans of the show might already know him because he was here with us before. And now he finally returns to talk to us about D20 Tales, content creation, and the live shows they are doing for GalaxyCon. Before that, we have to talk about something very special that happened just a week ago when this episode airs, which is the D&D Direct, which aired Tuesday last week. Niels, you've watched the D&D Direct.
I did.
What did you think of it?
Well, it was there. It said nothing really, while also talking a lot. So
it said a lot, actually. I think it actually said a lot, a very fucking lot, actually. Because I think what you and many others, myself included, expected were announcements for new books, announcements for new whatever, right? A lot of, like, this is gonna come out in 3 months, this is gonna come out in a year, but that's not the way D&D works anymore.
Yeah.
And we all need to accept that. And this is something that is really important from this D&D Direct. D&D has for years at this point not just been a game. And some people hate this, but I think it kind of fits. D&D is a lifestyle brand. And this Direct clearly showed that. It's not just about a game where you buy books to pretend with your friends around the table anymore. It's about a movie. It's about Minecraft. It's about life-sized action figures. It's not about a game we play. That is secondary to what D&D actually is, which is a big brand that is, in the words of CEO of Wizards of the Coast, under-monetized. There was a lot that they could have done to monetize this brand better, and now they're doing it.
Yeah.
So that's that, right? The D&D Direct showed clearly that Dungeons & Dragons and Wizards of the Coast, in my opinion, doesn't really care anymore about their actual game releases. At least not anymore that much.
Yeah, definitely diminished.
Yeah. And that is not to say that they don't care at all. It's just that they have a way bigger array of things that they need to talk about or that they want to talk about. Like, for example, like the first thing right off the bat, the Minecraft collab. Who the fuck expected that?
Yeah, well, I didn't. Let's just say it like that.
I'm speechless because all I can ask is why. I have nothing against it, and I probably, I'm gonna be honest, looked at it critically and said, yeah, this looks cool. I dig it. I kind of dig it. It's fun, right? A fun game, 7 hours, 8 hours with your friends in a 4-party, sitting around at your PCs at home and playing Minecraft. We've all done that. Now we can do it in D&D style. Cool. Costs $20 probably when it comes out next month. Yeah, this thing is supposed to come out in a few weeks. It's cool. Nothing big. It's okay. It's an okay first announcement. It's a what moment, right? It's a what the fuck, but nothing more. It's okay. It's cool. I just never thought I needed this, and I never will need it. And it's there now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just all right. There's Minecraft and D&D crossover now.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
And you can also grab 5 Minecraft monsters as D&D stat blocks now, by the way, if you want to, on D&D Beyond, if you still have your accounts. No. Again, this Direct was exactly not what I expected from the Direct, but it wasn't a bad Direct. It was just, I think, a sign from Wizards to the fan base that this is the new direction D&D goes into. And that if the next Direct comes at some point, probably next year or in a few months, we need to expect that this is going to happen again.
Yeah.
It's not just about the game you play at your home table, because Wizards has been very adamant that you play your game, we just provide you with some basic stuff for it.
Exactly.
If that's a good thing or not, I am not here to argue. If you think that's good, that's good. I think it's not that good, but okay. Hey, anyway, going on. Minecraft done. That I would ever say this on this podcast. Minecraft D&D done. What other things in this Direct were something that you enjoyed. Let's call it that.
Well, no.
No?
No, not really. It's nothing got announced that I was like, oh yeah, I definitely want that. I definitely need that.
And that was our pre-show, everyone.
Yeah. No, but I feel like for me, nothing really new and groundbreaking was announced that I definitely need or want out of this, that I haven't done myself or have found something online that was already there. Mm-hmm. Something along those lines. But yeah. Anything for you that you said, I definitely want that, I definitely needed that, or something I
mean, have you seen the owlbear action figure that they have?
All right, okay.
It looks fucking cool, but it's also going to be expensive and unnecessary.
Exactly.
And I think that's kind of the vibe I got from basically everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of unnecessary to me. That doesn't mean really, I'm not here to criticize that this direct was bad or that the products that they presented were bad. I think it was just unneeded personally for me, and I think a lot of other people in the community also didn't necessarily need what they presented.
Exactly.
However, the presenting of them was needed for the space itself, I think.
Yeah.
Because this is part of the brand now. Minecraft is part of D&D now. These, whatever they are called, action figures are part of the brand now. Plushies, these little Bakugan-esque, whatever the fuck that they have, all part of the brand. What else? Yeah, okay. There's one thing that we have to talk about, however, because that was the point in the direct where I went from, I didn't need to watch this actually, and okay, but that's very cool actually, to, oh my fucking god, fuck. The VTT announcement play thing. Yeah. Exactly. Like, first of all, obviously we only got that peak. So if that peak reveals something, if that peak doesn't reveal something, we don't know it. Mm-hmm. Generally, this VTT looks cool, sounds cool at first glance. Horrible when you think about it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm in general not the biggest fan of 3D VTTs in most cases.
Well, that's not even the problem for me. The problem is the implications that this VTT has for D&D as a brand. We all know what the OGL drama is. People remember that, hopefully, right? Mm-hmm. This is the reason they had that drama in the first place. This VTT, because they want this to be the only place you can play D&D.
Yeah.
And only with their rules, with the stuff that they do, and you're only gonna be able to create things on that single platform, on that VTT, on its community marketplaces to create. Wizards would have taken a big share from that, and boom, we've all would have worked under them, and they would have cemented their monopoly on the TTRPG market, because they would have pushed every VTT to the brink of, we need to close down doors, which means every other game cannot use these VTTs in the first place. Yeah. Because if D&D says you're not allowed to play D&D on VTTs anymore, these VTTs will lose like 75-80% of their player base.
Yeah.
Of their user base. And that's just the facts. It looks good, in my opinion, the VTT. Mm-hmm. But the implications, right? For example, that you will buy the books through this. To the people that like physical books, this VTT is a death blow to the physical market for D&D. Period. Mm-hmm. Because the rules are integrated into the VTT. That's what they said. That means that they do not fucking care anymore about the physical books. They didn't care for a while now at this point. They cared about D&D Beyond because that's where the money came from mostly. Mm-hmm. But now they integrate D&D Beyond with this VTT. So you can use all your rules in that VTT's own character builder. You will never see rule pages again. You will never see anything from the rule books. The VTT will do it for you. You just have to say, I want to play a tiefling. Sure, you can read the tiefling texts, but you will never see the PDF for it, because why would you? You have the VTT to do it for you. Why do the math? The dice in the VTT will roll themselves and calculate your own damage, and you get fancy animations for it. This is the future that Wizards of the Coast wants, and we fought by tooth and nail for the OGL. Yeah. To stop this dystopian future from happening, at least in some form. And I said it before in our Wizards of the Coast update, Wizards will push and pull everything they have to still make the wish that they had possible. Monopoly on the market using this VTT in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. When this VTT comes out and one D&D becomes a purely digital play experience, and suddenly D&D Beyond, for example, or other marketplaces like Roll20 need to switch over to one D&D for some reason, because Wizards is going to push one D&D as soon as it comes out, and not necessarily stop caring, but will care less about 5e.
Yeah, most definitely.
And then at some point, people will have to jump over if they want to. Wizards will push you to one D&D with all they can because they have more control there.
Yeah, it's...
Just because Wizards reverted their plans for the moment being doesn't mean that they never plan to do anything else again. And people need to realize that, in my opinion. And this VTT showed it. This is so weird because it looks cool for me. It looks fun. It looks engaging. It looks very polished, actually. But I just don't like the implications of microtransactions for your spell effects. I don't like that you have to do everything through the VTT. I have players that like physical dice and sheets and will use them. Yeah. Obviously, the VTT can't stop me from my players still doing the math in our heads and just using it as a battle map encounter thing. But Wizards will push for the general experience to become purely this digital play space. Yeah. They aren't even calling it a virtual tabletop, they're calling it a digital play space. And if that sounds too negative to you, at least the trailer for the D&D movie looked great. And I really like the releases that they have planned.
Yeah, they sound interesting, but we haven't had.
I'm interested in Planescape.
That sounds interesting though.
But I'm also not interested in buying anything from Wizards of the Coast ever again, because honestly, they botched literally the last 3 releases I bought from them, and the OGL drama happened, so why should I?
Yeah, what you said. It's definitely something.
So, rant over. We can jump over to Russel now.
That sounds like a good idea.
Oh, no. I talked way too long for this. But anyway, please, let's enjoy the mid-roll. Calm down, grab a drink, grab something to eat, and then let's enjoy Russel talk about their projects and content creation in general. I am sure you're gonna enjoy it. Hey listener, how are you enjoying the show so far? Tell us about it in whatever way you see fit. Go to our social media pages and add us or DM us about your favorite episode of the show. We would love to hear from you on what impact our show might have had on your home games. Or you could review us on your podcast app of choice and leave us a nice message with a 5-star review. And if you want to go above and beyond, bring a friend into the fold. Tell them about our show and refer us to them so they can get a piece of the pie as well. Thank you for listening to DoubleDM and joining us on this incredible journey.
And with that, we are back. And with us now is our guest, Russel. He has been on the show before, but I won't take anything away from him. So please go ahead and introduce yourself again.
Well, my full name is Russel Eugene Welsh III, which I like to use because how cool is that? How many people get like Russel Eugene Welsh III for their biological name? That's not like altered. That's not a stage name. That's a real name. So Pops, thanks for that. And also his pops and his pops. But technically, I'm Russel Welch IV, but Russel Eugene Welch III. But that's due to a complicated internal family politics thing that we won't get into today.
I mean, I have to say, it's a very cool name to say.
Hell yeah.
Russel Eugene Welch III. It just rolls off the tongue so well. It feels so great.
It feels very grand and very sophisticated, which I am not those things, but I would like to think that I am.
I will have to say, as someone that has watched a few of your shows, as a GM, you are that grand. You really fit that name.
I appreciate that. That is a cultivated persona. Well, not really. That is me, but it's just me actually making an effort to be put together and not a fucking mess.
Okay, so right out of the gate, the last time you were here, you were from Spawn of Chaos, having just the first few episodes of the Heralds of Wayne campaign. Now you're here as Russel Eugene Welch III from D20 Tales.
Yep.
How did that work? Why did you rebrand in the first place?
Great question. There was a business reason and there was I'm not a marketing person, I don't have the technical term for it, but I guess branding would be the word that comes to mind for some reason. There was an outward facing reason and an internal reason. The internal reason I'll unpack real quick. It's because we changed from an S Corp to an LLC because we originally, one of the team members who was helping me early on understood that type of structure much better. But after running that for a while, we realized it did not serve our purposes and it was a bit too big and ambitious of a structure. And an LLC works much better because we also had a much bigger team that was like 24 people. And now it's literally half that, a little less than half that. And so we've also scaled back our operation and taken a much more humble and realistic, I guess, maybe approach. We're pacing ourselves better. But we're a bunch of maniacs who just threw ourselves together at the beginning and we're like, let's do this. This is crazy. Big startup. And then we were like, oh, we have a lot to learn. And we learned a lot. Sometimes the easy way, often the hard way, always the complicated way.
Same with DoubleDM. Started off as, okay, let's fucking do this. We can do everything. Oh, fuck, this is a lot of work and a lot of stuff we need to learn.
Yep.
Maybe scale back a little bit.
Take things in stride. So that would be my first lesson for anybody listening, and this will be a reoccurring theme as far as what I recommend, is that don't try to do everything at once. Take it in steps. But we started right off the bat with video and audio, and we've learned a lot of lessons and we've come a long way, and we're really starting to hit the cusp of mastering video and audio content, both as mediums at the same time. I would never recommend anyone else ever do that. If you're gonna do an actual play of any kind, start with audio, do audio for at least a year, probably 2. And then transition into video because it is prohibitively expensive. It takes a huge amount of work. We did it on a shoestring budget. I can teach you how to do it on a shoestring budget, but doing it and learning that and mastering audio and all the other mediums at the same time, terrifying, really complicated, a lot of hard work. And I'm sad to say it burned out some of our really good, nice members. One of the reasons why our operation is smaller now. A lot of those people left just because, life happens or one of them got a job at NASA. And so it's hard to be like, no, stay. Because that's a whole other story. It's like, how do you tell someone who's like, I got my dream job at NASA to be like, no. Like, it's like, oh, good luck. Bye. Move up in the world. Leave us behind. As far as the outward facing reason is that once again, we jumped in this thing a little hard, a little fast, a little optimistic and crazy. And Spawn of Chaos is a very edgy name and it's cool. And we had a really cool logo with
the first D&D character Rogue.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like a very edgy logo that was the D20 with tentacles wrapped around it and everything else like that. And very edgy vibe. And that just doesn't appeal to a lot of people. And the problem we were running into too is we were trying to expand the show outside of just being an online show, because one of our big drivers that has always been from the beginning that we're finally starting to get into is that we've built our brand and really just our team and our talent based off of being more accessible to people, whether that's for live shows being the live show experience to experience, because we do interactive live shows, which we'll also get back to that. More importantly, just for all of our content in general, we edit our episodes down. We pre-record them. It's a lot of extra work, but we pre-record our episodes. We edit out all the extra fluff, out all the unnecessary stuff. All of our talent is exceptionally good at staying on focus. Our objective is to have a meaningful arc in every single episode, and to do that in under an hour. The only time we go over an hour now, we struggled with it more at the beginning, but the only time we go over an hour now with our content is either at a season final or a season opening. Otherwise, it's always 40 to 50 minute episodes, right around in that range, maybe creeping up on a little bit less, sometimes 30, 35 minute episodes. And we try to keep a satisfying arc because we want to respect people's time, but we also want to do it in a way that feels a lot more like listening to an audiobook, it's still organically and genuinely through the medium of D&D, because we want people who normally look at things like Critical Role, and Critical Role is phenomenal. They're at the top of their game. I'm never going to try to compete with what they do because they do it better, and I'll never do better what they do because they are them. But they have a monopoly on the 4-hour-long, weekly streaming, format. But so many people, and this is one of the reasons why I started creating content, so many people look at that and they're really intimidated by a 4-hour-long weekly episode, but like episodes where it's under an hour, where the arcs are anywhere from like 12 to 25 episodes instead of being like 50 or 200 episodes, like that is far more accessible. That's a lot more like Dimension 20, really, but free. I wanted a format that appealed to a lot more people. And the thing that I found is that the very edgy branding was holding us back. It was making a lot of people who would normally be interested in our content or just interested in us, like a little bit turned off, because it seemed like we were more horror than we were. In some of our content, we have like elements of horror, but like our main content is sanitized and family friendly, and also teen and young adult friendly, because that's also something that I realized, and why our content, if you look at our earlier campaigns, Heralds Away and our Emissaries of the Ancients, it's a lot more heavy hitting as far as like gore and violence than our current content, which is more family friendly, is because I noticed we were attracting a lot of young teens. I wasn't comfortable with essentially shoveling a bunch of very adult content towards younger adults. And so because our content, for whatever reason, and our branding and just our team was attracting younger people, I felt a really strong responsibility to create content for those people. The weird thread you have to thread as a content creator is always the demand between what you personally want to express and what your audience wants. And thankfully, I've been very lucky in finding a way to hit both of those nails right on the head. And I think it's really important that we take responsibility for what we put out in the world and what people hear. And so for those young audience members, I think it was really important that we rebranded, not just to be more accessible for like the target of what we're trying to create, but also to be sensitive and aware of the content we are giving to younger, impressionable audience members.
I feel this kind of hits on a discussion that has been going on since ever the ages of YouTube started, right?
Right.
As a content creator, you are, even though I hate the word, many people hate the word, you are somewhat of an influencer. You are going to be influencing people with your content. That's what they're going to consume, and that's what's going to be influencing them. The same was when TV was the big medium in whatever ages that was. They also had to look out for what they produce, because children could be watching. People could be influenced by what you do. And what you just said just shows exactly that, right? You had an audience, and you know what your audience is, and you weren't feeling that comfortable with hitting them, with influencing them with the type of content you did, because for whatever reason at the end. But there is some kind of responsibility as a content creator to look out for what content you produce for what audience. And I think it's a great thing that you brought that up.
Yes. Well, the thing is that didn't really change, is aside from the fact that it's a lot of the same people.
Yeah.
Though some of it has changed. Some of the cast has changed. I would say I'm the strongest common denominator. Caleb's an original character from Emissaries Season 1, and Rose is a character from Herald Season 2. But other than that, most of the cast is different. But the thing that we really, really tried to keep consistent between those two is that at the end of the day, I think what really makes our content special, and I wouldn't say this makes us unique because a lot of other shows do this too, is that our focus is built entirely around the relationships of the characters with each other. That is our driving force behind our plot, our stories, all the action, all the choices that are made, even to the point where like originally, like we created all the characters with ideas as for how their stories would intertwine and how their stories could combine and build each other up and like evolve into for complicated reasons that we may or may not get into today, we ended up suspending that campaign and switching to Planestriders, which is our new current campaign. But with Planestriders, when we transitioned, we took that up a notch. We sat down all the players and we said, okay, from step one, you are all going to create your characters together. Like no people didn't go off and pick their class, didn't think about their background, didn't do anything. I said, don't think of anything, don't do anything, don't even visualize any kind of a character concept. you're going to come into this meeting. We're going to talk about, okay, as a team, like who wants to be the face of the party? Who wants to be the tank? Who wants to like fill this role? The irresponsible one? Who wants to be the one who wants to be the parent? Who wants to be the child? All that to say, we sat them down and they picked their classes. They picked they talked to each other about like, this is what kind of background I would like to have. This is what kind of niche I wanted. And then every step of the way, every time somebody introduced a new concept of like, oh, my character's like this, is we went around with all the other players and we had every single one of them ask them a question about that. And then we went around and we had everybody say how their character felt about it or what their relationship was. Somebody might be like, oh, if this type of thing happens, my character is going to have a hissy fit. They're going to react in this way. This is their positive trait. This is their negative trait. And then we'd go around and we'd say, okay, how does your character respond to that? What is your character's relationship to that? Do they empathize with it? Are they frustrated by it? Are they upset by it? Do they reach out to that person and help? Like, when do you listen? When are you supportive? When are you unsupportive? And we really, really worked hard. We worked for months building the characters for Planestriders to build the relationships between them. We worked for weeks for Heralds and Emissaries, and it worked so well that we were like, we need to spend more time on it. And so I think the common denominator between those campaigns, our earlier content and our current content, but that we even scaled up more. And I would recommend this not just for people who are trying to create good D&D content, but if you're trying to create TTRPG content, whether that's D&D or Pathfinder or any other content like that, I would hugely recommend, but I would also hugely recommend it for people's home games. Don't build your parties alone. Build your parties together, because the dynamics that you create, the relationships that you create, and the understanding that you create takes your character from someone who's having a story in a void alongside somebody else to a party that has a story that happens together. Each of them has their own individual stuff. After we spent months on that, I spent a little bit of time with each of them to give them, they each have their own secrets. They each have some private things about their background that the other characters don't know, or things that'll be revealed. I think the character creation process, a thing that we've all been sleeping on, is that if you create your parties together, they function together so much better. Like, the dynamics and the emotional stakes in every single scene is so much higher when all these characters are invested in each other.
I very much agree, because Titan's Call, or the new project we are doing after it, which I'm just going to call Journey for the time being, because I don't know if we have announced the name when this episode airs. Both times we created characters together as a group, because especially if you're creating content, for me personally, you're not just playing a game, you're telling a story, you're creating a narrative for people to enjoy. Because the pure fact of just playing a game isn't mostly enough for actual plays, for me to get invested in them, at least. You only get that when you create characters together and work together to make sure that these characters work well together, or not necessarily, not work well in the sense of they're best friends all of the time, but that you can really play together, that you can role play an amazing narrative together. And if you get that, you get the juicy content that you always see in, Dimension 20 highlight reels, Critical Role highlight reels. The highlight reels are never combats or something. They are often role-play moments between two characters, or an NPC and a character, that just hits deep. And you get those moments through doing the work beforehand, creating together, making sure every player knows the character inside out, more or less, that you are playing. Because even if their character might not, they now can work with your character at any given point.
Yeah, and I think just adding on to that, it's not always about just the working effectively together or something like that, but just creating points where you are not aligned the same, where you have some sort of friction.
Contention.
Yeah, and therefore just have some sort of conflict between two characters, or between a character and an NPC or something like that. And then that leading to an amazing roleplay moment where you just basically scream at each other, but in good faith at the table is just amazing. If you are so invested into the story, into the characters, because you know them so well, because you took the time as a party to create those characters, to then just be so invested that you are now really having this discussion or these fights, but as the character, completely disconnected from you as players, just as the characters, is amazing.
Absolutely. I'd completely agree. It's one of the most fun things as a DM is after all of these meetings of figuring out all the quirks of their personality, and then also them doing the work to figure out how each of them feels about it and responds to it, is then it's so easy for them instinctively. I know I can like essentially toss a role play grenade essentially into the middle of the episode, because I can just start putting pressure on one of the characters because I know they're going to react in a specific way that's going to piss off one of the other characters and make one of the other characters jump to their aid and jump in, and like it's going to basically create a domino effect of all of them are going to have a strong effect. And there's many times where I'm like, okay, they threw a curveball at me. I need a minute to figure out what I'm going to do next. So I'm going to throw a curveball at them and just get them arguing with each other or fighting. And I just throw something at one of them, pull one of the pins or push somebody's button. And then I just love to just sit back and watch them go at it and not have to do any work. It's so great. The downside to it is that it's often engaging and entertaining enough that I get fully wrapped up in what they're doing and just watching. And then they're finishing up. And then I'm like, fuck, I didn't spend any of this time prepping what I'm going to do next. Time to wing it again.
Yeah, but I think that you take the time and really create these amazing characters that make your content so special is what enabled you to reach these incredible milestones that you have reached in the last 1.5 years, 3,000 YouTube views or the subscriber count or whatever. And how does that feel to have reached these milestones just after putting in all the work and then seeing the rewards?
It's weird. It's weird because on the one hand, it's very vindicating in that it feels really great. But on the other hand, there's many aspects of it that don't feel real. Like it's really hard to wrap your head around, for example, the concept of like our channel coming up on 400,000 views. Like for a lot of big channels, 400,000 views is chump change. But like for me who before this, never was into the influencer sphere, 400,000 views, that's a lot. And I know that's like impressions and maybe that's only 30 seconds and a lot of those are YouTube shorts, but that's crazy. I don't know how many of those are the same people or new people, but that's a lot of people. I can't really clearly wrap my head around it. And then you take people also at like conventions and live events and panels and workshops and live shows and things like that we've been in and throw those people in the mix. And I'm sure some of those people also overlap, but I don't know. I don't have a clear way to wrap my head around that. Like, that's just crazy. But the way I get through it is I just tell myself, whether it's one person or 100 people or 1,000 people, I have the same level of responsibility. And so as long as I look at that perspective of I have the same level of responsibility because I have 100% responsibility to one person for what I say and do to them. So if it's 1,000 people, I still have 100% level of responsibility. So I just do my best and just do what I can. Then I don't have to worry about it and stress about it. But it's crazy. Like milestones, like live shows, panels. It's weird. It's weird. The weirdest thing, okay, is that makes me uncomfortable. This is, I'd say probably the only thing that makes me uncomfortable is like, even it's like people come up and like ask for an autograph. It's like, oh, that's cool. That's cute. Like it doesn't happen very often. I've given very few autographs. I'm far from an autograph worthy individual, I think currently, but I think some people have asked for my autograph because they think that at some point I will become an autograph worthy individual. So, but that seems normal to me. It's like, that's to be expected. If you do a live show, you're the DM for a live show, there's a couple hundred people in the audience. Somebody's going to come up and ask for an autograph. That's reasonable. But the weird thing is when you can tell somebody comes up to you and you can tell they see you differently than they see themselves and other people in the room. Like you can just instantly tell that because of the position you were in, because I was the DM of the live show, or because I put on a workshop, you do something, you have that title, you're in that position for that workshop from a position of authority or from the DM of a live show. And you can just tell that there are people who come up to you and the way they treat you is different. You just feel it. They're listening to you more than they're listening to other people in the room. What you say is going to carry more weight. They're more invested in what you're going to say. And they will take your word for it over their own or over somebody else's. And that's the only thing that makes me uncomfortable, is because that's a lot of pressure and a lot of responsibility, but it's also a weird thing to finally feel like singled out. Like it's singled out in a way that can feel, if you let it and you're not careful, very like ego boosting of like, oh yes, I am special. Oh, my craft is being acknowledged. Somebody appreciates and recognizes what I've spent my whole life crafting and working on to get good at. But it's it's also just weird. It's weird because it's like, I'm just a person. I'm a person like everybody else in this room. Like we're just people here, just all assortments of people. And it's so weird to instantly recognize that someone has singled you out and looks at you with a form of like what I would almost describe as reverence. And it's just like, dude, I'm normal. Yeah, I sit behind a table and wave my hands around in the air, but like so many other people do that. They just don't do it in front of a camera with an audience. And I don't know, that's, I guess that ties into what I was saying earlier about like 100% responsibility, whether it's one person or 1,000 people, but especially the people who are like that. And especially when they're young and impressionable, like teens, it's like, I have to be so careful what I say and what I do in the impression that I give in the type of choices that I make. This person is literally just absorbing. They're just absorbing what you put out in the world. And even if I'm never like truly an autograph worthy person of like a mainstream, I'll just stay a micro influencer, and that's just forever what I do. And I just etch out a meager, respectable or humble living doing what I love. I will be more than happy with that. But there are people, and specific names and faces come to mind in our audience, who are great, wholesome, wonderful young kids who I just know just borderline revere me. And it's just like, I can't imagine how much that could be magnified if I was ever like a mainstream or like true influencer. And it's that level of responsibility is enormous. And that's something that I think about all day, every every time I create any piece of content. And that's a huge reason for the rebrand. And so many other things. It's just, I have 100% responsibility to that individual and everybody else.
Yeah.
I think I got off topic, but
that's great.
That's a point of view that I haven't considered.
No, I didn't as well.
From the fucking start, it's that I had to let that sink in, or I still do, I guess.
I still need to process that.
Yeah, sorry about that. Just put that on your... You're welcome.
In my opinion, it's such an important topic, though, to talk about, because it's this influencer discussion, right? These people are impressionable, and they are gonna be listening to you, and you need to know the responsibility you hold, even if you are just impressioning 100 people or 100,000 people. That's still a thing that you always need to be aware of. And it's just something that I have thought about a lot, but not to the extent of what you just imprinted on me that I now need to process. But I thank you for it, because it's a perspective that I probably had to hear at some point anyway.
Right. Absolutely. And the thing about the burden of responsibility that I think about is to me, it isn't just about, like saying or doing something like that's insensitive or marginalizes a minority that I don't, because I came up with a very limited background and working really hard to like expand my worldview and understand more people. But like I might say something insensitive, but it's just like even more fundamental in that, in moment to moment, is it's the responsibility I feel for just the way that I act. I can tell that it has altered my personality, and I hope for the better, but like my personality overall and who I am as a person has altered, and I hope matured considerably because of it. Things that I say and do in normal life that are just like, just me being me, just having fun, just being goofy, just being over the top. I step back and I look at those and I say, hey, would somebody else look at this on a platform who's impressionable and think, it's cool to act like this. Like somebody else might think, this is a really cool thing to do. Cool people do this. And many of my smaller interactions in conversation have often been born out of a place of selfishness. Just not intentionally, but just thoughtlessly. Just many little things that we do as people that can be thoughtlessly selfish in our interactions with other people. And I become hyper aware of those because I'm like, just the way that I respond to somebody, like whether it's one of my team members, when I like ask them to do something or designate a task to them, or like when we're playing the game of like how I interact with them as a DM, is like somebody's going to look at that and be like, that's what you should do. That's what I should be like that. I should emulate those things. And even if it's not a big deal, even if it's a little deal, but accumulation of little tiny things that can be abrasive or harmful or upsetting or just frustrating for other people or just selfish are mannerisms and actions that I'm putting out into the world and that other people are going to emulate. And yes, there are a lot of people in our audience, and I'm very thankful for them, who are very discriminating and very mature and are more than happy to point shit out and keep me in check and be like, cool your jets. Hey, you forgot about this. Hey, pay attention to this. Think about this. But yeah, I have the same level of responsibility for those people. I stress about them less, though, because they are much more discerning and because they can tell the difference. They can tell when I'm being a shithead and when I'm being a positive and good influence. And because they have that level of discernment, I don't need to stress about them. They'll handle it. They'll point it out. They'll call me out on my shit, as they should, which is great. And they help keep me in check. But for the members of the community who don't have that filter, who don't have that life experience, who don't have that discernment, for those people, everything that I say and do is something that they could internalize and take away from. And that's something that I have to be hyper aware of it.
I would love to talk about this all day.
The burden of responsibility?
Because I think it's a very important topic to talk about as content creators, but we want to move on. Well, we have to move on if we want to get to something else. There's one quick question that I have, because we've been scrolling through the YouTube and the backlog of content you've created with Spawn of Chaos or D20 Tales, and one thing stuck out to me personally. It's a very short question, or maybe not, I don't know. Heralds of Waynar, Emissaries of the Ancients, and Planestrider most recently.
Yes.
Who comes up with these evocative, mysterious names?
That'd be me.
Great.
I am super melodramatic. That's just basically the short answer, quick answer. I'm just a very melodramatic person. I'm just like, that's why originally our name was Spawn of Chaos, is because I'm just like, you know, it would be really cool. That would be really cool. And then I just do that.
They all sound a bit mysterious. They kind of evoke a feeling of desire to know more, you could say. It's just, okay, that sounds amazing. What the fuck is this about? Click, click, and then you're hooked. It's amazing.
I appreciate that immensely. That's part of what I was going for, is like, we'll just take Planestriders because it's the most current campaign. Mm-hmm. I'd also say it's our best content by far. But Planestriders is really what I wanted to encapsulate with that. Is I wanted to, on the one hand, like just label it in a way that people understood was going on. Okay, so they're like basically like, because it's basically Robin Hood-esque pirates in space is the pitch. It's Robin Hood pirates in space pirates, which I think is a cool, fun premise. We needed Planestriders kind of tells people that, okay, they adventure through space. But I also wanted to include an element of mystery in that kind of hints at also the catchphrase for Planestriders, which I always pair the title with a catchphrase. For Emissaries of the Ancients and Spawn of Chaos, it was "Chaos awaits you in the dark." Obviously, much more edgy. But for Planestriders, I kind of used the same format and style, but to instead say "Adventure awaits you beyond the horizon" and that's basically the tagline in between Planestriders and "Adventure awaits you beyond the horizon." That needs to tell people, and this is getting into like a behind the scenes thing, but for content creators out there, if you can thread that line, the thing you really want to do is you want to do three things. First, you want to tell people what they're in for, because if they're completely confused and can't identify what it is they're showing up for, it's going to be really hard for you to get them to show up. You can't just have a mystery. But it also needs to get them to ask a question and want to know more. And it also needs to elicit a feeling. That's a really hard thing. That's a really hard trifecta to hit. And it takes a lot of work. Like, it may seem silly, but it's not. I spent 2 months and got input from the entire team, lots of collaborative input from the entire team, from dozens and dozens and dozens of different names, probably more than that, honestly, before I arrived at Planestriders. You have to put in the work. And that may seem like a weird thing to put in the work for. You may think, oh, this is what my campaign's about. I can just call it this. Like, that's a cool name. But never be afraid and never think that you're bad or uncreative or slow if you take time to work out the small details. Obviously, you want to be progressing in other ways. You can't just take 2 months to only work on the name and then name your thing, or you're never going to get anything done. But during those 2 months, we were obviously really busy doing a lot of other stuff too, and laying the groundwork and creating their characters. But like, we were 2 months into the character creation work of all of them working together on their backstory and their history and their feelings and role-playing with each other and practicing in their characters before we had a name for the campaign, because we took our time to make sure it was right. And so don't be afraid to give your creativity room to breathe. Obviously, when things are on a schedule, it's hard. You gotta give it room to breathe. But on a time crunch, and that's a weird balancing board to stand on. But if you're struggling with the name or the title or the description or the concept, you're not doing anything wrong. You're doing something right, because what your brain is telling you is that I need to figure this out. This is worth figuring out. And maybe you figure out part of the concept and you work for that and you work ahead, but you keep other things in check. Maybe you change your mind and you have to redo your work. All of those things are valid parts of the creative process. But the thing about the creative process is that it's creative, so it never looks the same. So don't hold your creative process to a strict formula. If you come up with the right name right off the bat, you come up with the right name right off the bat. But if you don't be afraid, whether it's the name or a description or the elevator pitch or the concept or anything else, to let your creativity breathe and work on it. And there's a part of the creative process that is just almost pseudo-magical, mystical, of just like lightning strikes. And you're just like, you know what? Plain Striders is right. That works. That's what it should be. And all of these things are valid. All of these things are good. And whether you create your names or titles completely from a place of like pure creativity or from a place of pure analyticalism, both of those are all right. Personally, I find it's best when I draw from both, but that's just what works for me. And so for me personally, whatever I tell you as advice or whatever anybody else tells you as advice, keep in mind they are coming from a place of what worked for them and their own personal experience. I can tell you all the answers to the world and how everything works for me, what makes sense to me based on my experiences, but here's the thing that we lose track of so much in our society is based on our own personal priorities. My priorities are not your priorities. You may prioritize something different. And so just keep that in mind. When someone is giving you advice or telling you what you should or shouldn't do or how to do something, just remember they're coming from a place of, this is what's important to me. This is what I think you should prioritize. And that may not be your priority, and that is okay.
Wow, dropping the heavy bombs right after another. That's
sorry. I wax philosophical if you don't stop me or reorient me. Or
these are the important things to tell and to ask and to discuss and to philosophize about. These are just general life advice things that needs to be heard and needs to be told. Just take the time that you need and figure out a process that works for you. Not every process works for everybody. Just all of these things. It's important to talk about this.
Okay, moving on one step further. Let's talk about Plain Strider specifically again, right. Especially the newest thing you guys are doing, because you are going to GalaxyCon and to do live shows of your Plain Strider campaign.
Yeah, which is fucking bonkers.
Yes.
That too, yes.
It's amazing. Right off the bat, I don't know how much you can say about it, but how did that come to be? How did you guys how did you guys get the chance to do these live shows?
That's a complicated question. So I'm just going to start shooting in the dark here. How did we come to do these live shows? The first answer, and this is just in general great life advice for anybody who's starting a new thing, is ask. There's more involved than that, and I will get into what's more involved, how to get your foot in the door for places, which is super important, is because nobody is going to advocate for you. Nobody's going to just come out of the fucking blue and just like look at your business or your new project or your new startup or your new creative thing that you're doing and say, yeah, let me help them out. That's not going to happen unless you find a way to make other people care and be invested in what you're doing, and then people will help you. And that's a big part of how we got here is step one, ask. You got to go out there and you got to put yourself out there, and you will get rejections and people will laugh in your face and people will look at you and say, you don't have a big audience. Like you have under 1,000 subscribers, or you have now just under 2,000 subscribers. Like you're not big enough. You're not important enough. You're not an influencer enough to do a live show. Like, what are you doing? Stop knocking on our door. Leave us alone. You don't matter. You're not someone in this space. Come back when you are. Come back when you have 100,000 subscribers. That happens. That has happened. I have gotten those answers. But that's okay. That's okay. Because you just have to keep asking. Because you'll get better at asking, and because not everyone will say no. And that opens doors. So step one is really just get your foot out there. Because, I mean, they say you'll miss 100% of the shots you don't take, which in this is super critical. You will not get out there if you don't get your ass out there. Saying it with those exact words, it's like so readily apparent, but it's so hard for us to just take risks. Take some risks. They can be calculated risks. They can be reckless risks. Nobody is more qualified than you to tell you what risks you should take with your thing or what you're willing to do. Because once again, they don't know your priorities. You do. You can learn a lot from other people. You can emulate what works for somebody else and incorporate that and learn from it and do better. But step one, take some risks. Get your foot out there. Step two, build relationships, not partnerships. That is the biggest thing. Is step one, you got to ask, you got to get your foot in the door. And the first question you should ask is not 100% of what you want. Honestly, the first question you should be asking when you get in the door is, hey, I would like to do this thing for you. Would you like that? That's what worked for Fan Expo. That was our first live show. Is we said to Fan Expo, hey, we'll pay for the expenses. Not everybody can do that. Not everybody's in that position. We reached out to Fan Expo and we said, hey, we'll pay for the travel. We'll pay for the costumes. We'll pay for the banners. We'll go and do this live show. We'll prove that we can do this, that we're qualified. They asked us to pay them. We're like, no, we're not going to pay you to do what we do. That's not fair. That's not a reasonable ask. We reached out and we said, hey, we noticed you need this kind of content. We noticed you need more panels. You don't have too many like D&D panels. They were doing a big, like for the convention we went to, they were doing a giant thing for D&D in relation to Stranger Things because the final season of the most recent season of Stranger Things was coming out. And so they had like a big giant panel, just one panel on D&D and Stranger Things. And we were like, hey, like, let's come in. Let's do some more panels for you. Let's do some workshops for you. Let's do a live show for you. And we gave them something that they needed. And they appreciated that. And then because of that, because they saw that we could do it and because they saw that we were engaging, they were like, you know what? You guys are cool. Even though you guys have a small audience, like, let's take a chance on you. Let's talk about doing another live show too. Or let's talk about doing a live show tour, which is crazy. So we were going back and forth with them about doing a live show tour. We're still going back and forth with them. Big company, things move slowly. Will we do that? Will we not do that? I don't know. But GalaxyCon saw what we did and thought that was cool. And they're a much smaller, they have a much more family mom and pop feel, which I really like and enjoy. And so long term, I'll probably work with them more because they've treated us really well and they've done some great things for us. But honestly, they saw what we did and they were interested. And so somebody else who we partner with, Misty Mountain Gaming, who works with them, reached out and said, hey, I can get you in the room with them. You can talk. And so we got into Fan Expo because we essentially hounded them and chased them down and talked to many different people until we finally found somebody who let us in the room to give our pitch. And then we volunteered and did a thing for them. But then somebody else saw what we did, GalaxyCon, and reached out and was like, we'd love for you to do that with us, and gave us a much better deal. And I'll announce this. We haven't officially announced this, but maybe depending on when this comes out, this will be an official announcement. But GalaxyCon has offered us a tour as well. So we're going to be doing a tour with GalaxyCon. Richmond is going to be the first event, but we're going to be doing 3 other live shows, assuming that we don't absolutely blow this one out of the water. If you don't see us at any of their GalaxyCons, I probably fucked something up. My bad. It's crazy. But the thing is, it didn't. For step one, you got to get out there and you got to take risks. You got to ask and you got to show people what you can do. People aren't going to believe in you until you give them a reason to. People aren't going to have faith in you until you gave them a reason to. I guarantee you, GalaxyCon would have not been willing to take a chance on a tour, flying us and driving us all over the place, which is like all expenses paid, by the way. Don't take this as like do it for the exposure. That's not the advice. The takeaway here isn't to do it for exposure. Do it as an investment in yourself. Like, demonstrate what you can do, but then you need to charge for it. Like, there needs to come a transitionary period where you say, I respect my craft. I'm either whether it's going to ask my audience through a Patreon for somebody who's benefiting, or I'm giving something to you. There needs to be an ask. You need to know what that ask is, and you need to ask for it, because you should not be working for free, and you should not be working for less than you're worth. And you should always ask for what you're worth. And don't let people keep, like, if you work with somebody to demonstrate what you can do, and then you ask what you're worth and they don't pay it for you, don't continue that relationship. End that relationship, because they're just there to use you, to use your labor, to use your skills. Step 1 is get your ass out the door. Step 2 is build a relationship. Give them a reason to care about you. Build a relationship, not a partnership. This lesson, I tried to do both in the first year of Spawn of Chaos, before we rebranded like 6 months ago or so, or whatever it was, to D20 Tales. Like, I tried to do both. I tried, because I was experimenting. I tried to build business relationships, and I tried to build personal relationships. And every single other brand or entity or creator or person or influencer or business that I have gone out of my way to build personal relationships and understand and care and be invested about the people who made them invested and care about us, those relationships are still going well. We still are in contact with those people. They like us. I enjoy them. They're better. They're easier. They're fresher. They're fun. The ones in which I just built a business relationship that was transactional, those were short-lived. And that was the biggest lesson that I learned. It was something that I kind of thought I already knew, but I was like, I'm going to test it. I'm going to test it. And it just completely confirmed it for me of relationships are what make the world go round. It's the connections you have with people. Like, so many people use the phrase, we have a phrase of like, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that completely applies. It's who you know. And a lot of people can be frustrated by that and say, oh, like that can be like nepotism, that can be favoritism. But the thing that I would say is your takeaway with that shouldn't be that that's an unfair system. Your takeaway from that should be that the world is built and runs on human relationships. It runs on good human relationships. It runs on people caring about you because they know that you care about them. Like, why is someone going to be invested in you and care about you if you don't care about them? Why is your audience going to be invested and care about you if you're not invested and care about your audience? Sometimes it'll happen. Some people win the metaphorical digital lottery, or circumstantial lottery in life, but most people don't win the lottery. Don't gamble with your dream based on hoping to win the digital lottery. Build relationships with people and care about the people you work with in the space that you work in, and the space will care about you. And those people will care about you. And the thing is like, we partnered with Misty Mountain Gaming for our live show in Dallas. They gave us some free dice. They gave us like a bunch of dice, a free dice and some banners. We did a little skit for them in the live show, and we talked about them. We promoted them. They sold some dice. They liked that. And then we did some digital stuff with them. And now they're creating a merch line for us. And they literally introduced us to GalaxyCon, who we're doing a tour with, because I spent probably, I think, over a year. I spent over a year chasing Misty Mountain Gaming because, like, I just originally just like liked their dice. It was this, I had 2 sets of dice, and they're both Misty Mountain Gaming dice, and I thought they were quality and looked good and cool. And I liked that, like, they poured them in a way where, like, they're a lot more like balanced, so like they're more even on the rolls, which is something that's important to me. So I chased them, but I really put a focus on getting to know the people who worked there. And I worked my way up relationship-wise the ladder of getting to know and being invested in making the people who like work, from the gatekeepers and the boots on the ground to finally John runs the operation behind the scenes, building good relationships with those people and caring about those people. And now they go out of their way to create good opportunities for us. GalaxyCon exists because we created relationships with people, and those people created opportunities for us. So that's really, I would say, step 3, but you want to get out there once you have the good content, once you have something of value, interest to people. Build a relationship with those people, and those people will find a way for you to be involved in what they're doing. Because at the end of the day, we all just want to work with and around people like us, who we like, make us feel good, who make us happy. We all just want to be happy. And the biggest way in which you can show people that you care and this is to essentially summarize this, but this is part of step one, is like getting your door out there, getting your foot out there in the door is you have to extend the olive branch first. Don't expect other people to just do things for you. Do things for other people first. Show them that you care. Find out who they are. Find out what they do. Care about what they do. Invest in what they do. Give them something of value and give them real, genuine connection. And then they will care and they will give back. But you have to give, and you can't give in a way in which you expect return. Like if it's transactional, they won't do it. Give a way in which you're investing in the person and you care about the person, and don't worry about the rest of the details. Don't demand things. Don't give ultimatums. Don't say, I'll do this and you'll do that. Invest in people, and if those people don't invest back in you, find someone else to invest in. If you have to squeeze or extract value from somebody else or from a relationship, then that relationship doesn't have long-term value, and it's not going to withstand the test of time. And if it does, it's always going to take work and it's going to be forced. And you just, like, maybe your priorities are different and you want to live in a very like old school boomer style, like economically driven, like very corporate type of cold, unfeeling culture and world. And that's what you want to surround yourself with. And that's how you want to do things. I don't think most people do. And I don't think that's very human. And I think a lot of people do that because they think they don't have another choice and they don't have another option. But if we all make the choices every single day to have human relationships with everything around us, then I think the very cold, corporate, disconnected, like inhuman elements of working in so many spheres that all of us find ourselves in every day will go away over time. Like it will melt the test of time if we as people decide that we just want to have more warm and human interactions and relationships and partnerships. I did it again.
Silence. But I really feel like maybe people want to get a second opinion on what you just said, because I can assure them that's correct what you just said. Because with this podcast, and we're by no means a big podcast at all in the TTRPG space or in any kind of podcasting space, but we've worked with so many incredible creators like you, like other people that we've interviewed or that we have interviewed us, and there's some real connection there. There's not just and transactional, okay, yeah, we do an episode with you that gets us views and you some new audience. No, it's really just because we're all sitting, for example, now sitting just in this recording and just having fun talking about this stuff. And that's way more valuable than, yeah, we will just do this so we can both get content out of it.
Right.
Nah, I don't like that. But I do like that I learned so fucking much today from you.
It's amazing. It's just having a conversation and just hearing what other people have to say is far more valuable than just exchanging things just for the views or just for exposure or just whatever.
Money,
but just really getting the feeling and the vibes across just from a conversation basically equals just because we wanted to talk. We want to explore other topics with some people is far more valuable, or at least it's far more valuable to me, because I just learn more that way, just through a normal conversation is way better for me than just exchanging things because I gave you something, you give me now something. But
yeah.
The
transaction in and of itself, like there's nothing wrong with that. And that's cool.
Yeah.
And like to some degree that's necessary for example, D20 Tales, because getting into a whole other thing, like the type of content we create won't ever get picked up and pushed by the YouTube algorithm, because like long form episodic content, YouTube just doesn't understand why they show episode 7 to someone who they showed episode 3 to, or this is the same type of person who watched episode 3 and liked it. Let's show them episode 7 of Planestriders, and then those people don't click on it because it's episode 7 and they're not going to start with episode 7, and YouTube doesn't understand what's going on, and they're like, this content sucks. Or like a lot of times what happens is it shows episode 7 to someone who just recently watched episode 3. And so they click on it and then immediately click off of it and go to our channel and watch episode 3. And then YouTube says, oh, your click-through rate sucks. And so because your click-through rate is garbage, because even your own audience keeps clicking through lots of your videos before they watch one, the YouTube algorithm just doesn't push our content. So yeah, it's important that I get out there and I do stuff like this so that people can find our content, because the algorithms on the platforms we're on aren't going to do it for us. But why would I want to do that with people who I don't like? Like if I'm going to go somewhere and do this, like you guys are fun. I've always had a good experience with you guys. You guys have always been very warm and receptive and polite, interesting. You've got a cool dynamic going on here. You have a very like approachable vibe that I find very like, I guess the word for it is like safe and comforting almost, which I really like and respect that you've cultivated that. It feels like you have a very like comfortable, approachable, safe vibe that's also curious and a little bit adventurous, which I also find fun and interesting. And why would I want to go somewhere else? Like I have other interviews, but other interviews are for also people who I think are cool, who I like, who I have good relationships with. I invested in them and they invested in me. They're all different types and sorts. Like I have an interview, I think later this week for a creator who probably has an audience of about 10 people, but they're a good creator. What they're putting out there in the world is great stuff. That's a big thing that I think that I want to set a different example for in the space is I see so many audiences, and I'm not going to name names or point fingers, and I understand where they're coming from and I don't judge them. But so many people I see as they grow in the space get essentially too big for the little people. And I think that's just so sad. I definitely want, no matter where D20 Tales goes or where this tour or other exciting, cool stuff we're doing takes us or other partnerships, I want us to always have open doors to collaborate with, to work with and be involved with, from the smallest to the largest people in the community, because we're just a part of the community like everybody else. And if we only use our platform transactionally to just get bigger and expose ourselves and build economically beneficial relationships, then I think we're moving to that like cold corporate type of cutthroat, ruthless, competitive vibe of like, that's not what I want to spend my days doing. That I just wouldn't be happy doing that. That's not fun. That turns it into a slog, becomes competitive. And anytime you become competitive in the space with the other creative people instead of collaborative, then you isolate yourself. And when you isolate yourself, it gets lonely. And it just makes it so much harder.
All right.
Yeah.
but I have just one quick thing since we're nearing the end. That just bugs me a bit is which part of the live games or the live shows that you go through or are going through are you most excited about? Just as a quick thing out there, that's just something that interests me personally.
Which part? I think the thing that I'm most excited about is, and this is a big reason why our live shows are interactive, like people literally roll giant inflatable D20s to like shoot cannons or launch trebuchets at the party members or like drive pirate ships or be a goat or, you know what I mean? Like whatever weird stuff that we can work into the plot and story and have effect on it is I love the element of being able to directly interact with people, love the things that I love and share the passions that I have. The thing that I look forward to the most that just gets me out of bed in the morning, that just fills me with energy and excitement and enthusiasm is passion, is seeing the reactions on people's faces and seeing them invest in the things that I'm invested in, that I care about. That when you as an artist put your heart and soul into something, and then so many other people you can see in real time care deeply about it and get invested and get involved, and you can bounce off of them and you can involve them in it and they become a part of it with you, sharing what you love and you're passionate about. Like, I don't know that there's too much else that's more fulfilling in life as a person than just sharing what you're passionate about with other people.
That would probably be the same thing for me if I ever do a live show. I have one question though about especially being a GM, showrunner, and producer kind of person when doing live shows. How are you preparing for it, right? You obviously want that interactive element, but is there something different between preparing for a recorded show than doing a live show in front of an audience there?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot more involved. I don't think we have time to get into that, but I'm just going to hit some heavy hitters. It involves exchanging a lot of emails and figuring out stuff like, okay, where are we going to run the wiring? Like, what's the stage lighting? Like, how much space do we have on the stage? Are we going to be able to have table runners? Like, where are we going to be able to put banners? How big of banners can we fit? Where can we put banners? What tables are we going to have access to at the convention? Like, what's the table seating? What's the seating arrangement for the players? Like, how are we capturing audio? How are we making sure that we capture capture clean audio? Like, how are we capturing video? Where are the cameras sitting at? Like where are the wires running? Are we playing music? Can we play music? What music are we? Who's running the music? Who's running around and handing audience members the giant inflatable D20? Who has the backup D20? Because somebody's probably going to pop the giant inflatable D20. And so you need to make sure you have a backup and a backup. We have 3 giant inflatable D20s because shit happens to those giant inflatable D20s. Also, you got to figure out, like, where are you going to house the team? Like transportation, like food, like who's communicating with their audio guy, with their tech guy, with the people who are in charge of the rooms in the space, with their programming person. There's a lot involved. There is a lot involved. But the thing that makes it fun and exciting, other than the fact that we're preparing for something fun and exciting, is that GalaxyCon specifically, working with them, they've been very receptive. They've been very communicative. They've been very collaborative. Anytime I'm like, hey, this would be really tough for us to do. This would be really hard. Can we do this instead? A lot of times they can't always do exactly what I want, but they're like, hey, okay, let's talk about this. Like what part of this, well, like what do you need? Let's try to make sure you get what you need. We can't maybe give you exactly what you asked for, but what elements of it are the most important? Specifically, I was like, this is the maximum amount of things we can do. This is a maximum amount of panels and workshops and live shows that we could do. And they're like, okay, but we don't kind of want to work you guys to death. We want you to have a good experience and enjoy it. What's a reasonable amount you can do where we can give you as much exposure and platform as possible, while also not working you guys to death, and you can enjoy the convention the weekend. And I really respect and appreciate that GalaxyCon did that. GalaxyCon, they're really great people over there. I'm really liking the people over there. They've really treated us well. They've really collaborated well. And so what's involved in a live show? A lot. What makes it better and manageable is having a group of people who just want to work with you, want to make it work, who also care, who are trying really hard and care about you. That makes all the fucking difference. But I could do a whole fucking series about just logistics behind like properly managing and setting up a live show.
I can imagine. Even just setting up this small recording, right? It's not just opening up a Zencaster room, right? It's also checking equipment for me and Niels, making sure that everything works. I think with that, we've kind of reached the end of our episode. So one final question for you, Russel. Is there something that you haven't said yet that you still want to say about the stuff that we've talked about today?
Yeah, actually. I've wanted to ask you both a question. Because you've asked questions. So I want to ask you a question.
All right.
I've talked a lot about my feelings about like the responsibility of somebody with an audience and how to run things and my philosophy on that. I would like to know, what is your core philosophy around what you do? Like, what is your core philosophy about the creativity that you pour into this space? Like, what essentially is the linchpin that summarizes your feelings and your perception on not really like what drives you to do what you do, but almost what justifies it to yourself? Like what is the thing, the lesson you've learned, or the thing that you believe that gives you the confidence to create what you create?
So I'm gonna just go instantly on it, because as you were talking, I had one core theme in mind.
Nice.
And that is, for me, you never stop learning. And this is kind of what I realized with doing DoubleDM. We were starting DoubleDM with, we have so many answers for people. We want to tell people, we want to answer questions, we want to help them and give tips. And we're still doing that. But much more our content shifted to, we are just here, 2 dudes discussing what we are doing right now, what we think is going on, how we think things can work, and then talking about our experiences, learning from each other, and giving people one more perspective to learn themselves. Be it even in the actual plays that we do. What I've realized when we record a Titans Call, our first actual play, is that at any given point, I was just trying to better myself in the GMing, for example, in creating NPCs, in making the combats more evocative or more engaging, more dangerous, whatever you want to call it. It's the theme of learning and always looking to improve yourself that I think this show personifies. We've done 110 episodes at this point, or we've recorded 110 episodes.
Congratulations.
I've grown so much in those 2 years that I would probably not agree with what I said 2 years ago. on advice on, I don't know, creating characters or necessarily. And there is really some value in just looking to do what you can do in the moment to the best of your ability, and then looking back at it and saying, I'm proud of that, but now I can do better. And now I'm creating better content. Now I am a better GM because I had that experience and I learned from it. Okay, that combat didn't work. Why didn't it work? These factors played. Let's do that differently this time. And I think that's the value and the justification for what I'm doing here.
For me, it's something like finding your own way, or finding a way to make it your own, or make anything that you do your own through creative dialogue. Just hearing different perspectives on the same topic can lead to things that you haven't thought about previously, just because someone else mentioned it, or just because you heard a discussion about the same topic, you suddenly spark a different thought in your mind. And this really helped me a lot. That's why we actually started this, is just because we talked about our sessions, just because we talked about the things that happened in our campaigns. And that just gave me new ideas just because I heard someone else talk about something entirely different. And therefore, just sparked this creativity in the moment, and therefore just cleared a path that I can take and make it my own. That's basically the whole essence that sits behind DoubleDM for me.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. I appreciate you both sharing that.
Thank you for asking. That's
another heavy hitter.
It's not often that you get asked on your own show about something, but I love it.
Amazing.
Thank you for asking. So with that, Russel, please tell us when people can catch these live shows at Galaxycon. Where, at what locations?
The one that's coming up fast. Like, I have to leave in 2 days. To drive down there. It's so soon. I'm leaving 2 days to drive down to GalaxyCon in Richmond, Virginia, where we'll be doing 2 live shows and I think 2 workshops. 2 days. So that's March 24th, 25th, 26th is the days we'll be there. We'll be doing on March 24th and 25th is when we'll be doing the live shows. And then 24th and 26th is, I think, the workshops. For people who can't make it out there, we're going to be trying to record definitely the live shows. Also, we're going to try to record the workshops. Those should be making out. I'm probably going to put the live shows. Well, the live shows are definitely going on the D20 Tales channel. I might put the workshops on my personal channel. We'll get it out there for you if you want it. For the future live shows, if you basically just look at GalaxyCon's like roster on their website of when their events are, the answer for right now is, unless I fuck it up, all of them. So we'll be there. As far as the actual show itself, Planestriders, that's season 1 is entirely aired. It's really short and sweet, but crazy amount packed in there. It's just 7 episodes that average about an hour long, 50 minutes to an hour long. 7 episodes, short, sweet, punchy. Season 1's already entirely aired on our channel. You can watch it. You don't need to before you watch the live show. The live show is actually going to take place before season 1. Season 2, we've already recorded. That should be coming out in about probably the next month or so from when this is coming out. So probably in May, probably somewhere near April, March, April. That's what the month that comes next. I swear I can read calendars. About a month from now, season 2 should start coming out, but you can catch up all on season 1. Go to our YouTube, D20 Tales, Planestriders. It's the best content we've created so far. It's exceptionally human. That's what I would say about it. If I'm going to pitch it at all, I would say that the story is about the characters. It's really just about the characters. A lot of crazy shit happens in the world that they're in the world they're around. But this story isn't like there is like a big quest to like save the space and everything that's going on. But at its core, it's not really about the Doomsday event. It's about the Planestriders. It's about a family of orphans who were raised by a pirate to be Robin Hood-esque pirates, doing Robin Hood-esque pirate things, and just being a dysfunctional family that loves each other and fights a lot about everything, but also would do anything to keep each other together and safe. And that's really just what it is. It's just a human story about space pirates.
Thank you for being here, Russell. Thank you for talking to us about this and sharing so many wisdom bombs basically with us. It's been a great experience. It's been a long episode, but it's been a very valuable one in my opinion. It's been a very informative, not just for, I think, an audience, but also just personally for me. There's a lot I can and have learned from you now. Oh, there's a lot I have learned, and there's a lot I think I can still learn. Yeah. Just thank you for being here. Thank you for doing this with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. As I've said before, and I will say again, you've always made it a pleasant experience. You've always been very warm and inviting, and you cultivate a very safe, comforting, but also curious and adventurous environment. And you deserve some recognition for that. You're doing something good, and you're putting out positivity into the world. Thank you for that. Keep it up.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, and with that, we will hear you on the next one, our dear audience. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheerio.
Thank you for listening to this episode of DoubleDM. It appears you liked this one. What we had to say and our advice helped you. Why not show us how we helped you in a rating, or even write a review detailing us how we helped? You can do this on the platform that you are listening on right now. It's just a few clicks, doesn't take long, and helps us out. It gets us out there and our advice into more ears of more people. Thanks again for listening and joining us on this amazing journey. Have a great day, and hear you on the next one. Bye-bye.